A paralyzed baby slept. What his puppy did next left the world in tears. The quiet hum of a baby monitor filled the dimly lit nursery. A faint glow from a nightlight painted soft golden hues over the crib where 6-month-old Noah lay motionless. His tiny chest rose and fell in steady rhythm, yet his legs remained still, unchanged for months. The doctors had exhausted their answers. There was no clear cause, no medical solution, only silence and uncertainty. Outside the nursery, Olivia sat curled up on the couch, gripping the soft, faded baby blanket that still carried Noah's newborn scent. She traced its edges with trembling fingers, her heart weighed down with an unbearable ache. Across from her, Ryan, her husband, sat in a defeated silence, staring blankly at the floor. "I don't know how much more I can take," Olivia whispered, her voice breaking under the weight of her fears. "What if this is it? What if he never moves again?" Ryan exhaled, rubbing his face. "We have to keep hoping," he murmured, though even to his own ears, his words sounded hollow. At their feet, their golden retriever puppy, Milo, lifted his head. His ears perked up, his brown eyes darting toward the nursery door. He had always stayed close to Noah, never straying far from his crib, as if he understood the fragile state of the little boy he loved. But tonight was different. Milo stood up abruptly, his tail stiff, his body tense. His gaze locked onto Noah's crib with an intensity Olivia had never seen before. Something was stirring within him, something instinctual and urgent. Without hesitation, he trotted toward the nursery. Ryan and Olivia followed, their steps quickening when they heard a soft whimper. When they reached the doorway, they froze. Milo was on his hind legs, pressing his front paws against the crib bars, whimpering softly. His bright eyes never left Noah, his tail wagging with growing excitement. Then, Olivia saw it. A twitch. Barely perceptible, just the slightest movement of Noah's tiny fingers. Her breath caught in her throat. "Ryan," she gasped, gripping his arm. "Look at his hand." Ryan's eyes widened. They watched in stunned silence as Noah's fingers curled and uncurled, responding to something unseen, something unexplainable. And then, impossibly, his hand lifted, slow and unsteady, but undeniably real. Olivia let out a sob, her hands flying to her mouth as tears streamed down her face. Ryan dropped to his knees beside the crib, his breath shaky. "Noah," he choked out. Milo barked, a short, excited sound, as if he knew. As if he had been waiting for this moment all along. And then, against all odds, Noah's legs twitched. The shift was small, just a whisper of movement beneath the blanket, but it sent a jolt of hope surging through Olivia's heart. The months of hopeless nights, of doctors shaking their heads, of helpless prayers whispered into the void, it all led to this moment. Ryan reached out, his fingers brushing against Noah's leg, his touch feather-light, afraid this miracle might vanish if he dared to believe it. But the moment held. Noah stirred again, his muscles remembering what they had long forgotten. A rush of emotion flooded Olivia. She turned to Milo, dropping to the floor beside him. "You did this," she whispered, running a shaking hand through his golden fur. The puppy nuzzled into her touch, letting out a small, contented sigh. Noah's eyes fluttered open, hazy with sleep. For the first time in months, he turned his head, his gaze locking onto the tiny puppy beside him. And then, in a movement so gentle yet so powerful, Noah reached out his small hand and placed it on Milo's head. Ryan let out a breathless laugh, rubbing his hands over his face, trying to process what was happening. "Is this even possible?" Olivia didn't have an answer. But as she looked into her son's wide, curious eyes, she knew one thing. Miracles don't always come in grand gestures. Sometimes, they come in the form of a tiny golden retriever puppy who refused to give up. The days that followed were filled with more emotions than Olivia and Ryan had felt in months. Each morning, Noah moved a little more. His fingers gripped with more strength. His legs kicked softly beneath the blanket. His doctors were stunned, calling it an unexplainable recovery, something they had never expected to see. But Olivia and Ryan knew the truth. It wasn't just medicine. It wasn't just luck. It was love, the pure, unwavering love of a tiny puppy who had stayed by their son's side when hope seemed impossible. As Olivia sat in the rocking chair one evening, Noah nestled against her chest, she reached down to scratch behind Milo's ears. He looked up at her with those warm, knowing eyes, his tail wagging lazily. "You saved him," she murmured, her voice thick with gratitude. Milo sighed contentedly, curling up beside them as if he already knew. And in that moment, Olivia realized something. Sometimes, miracles don't come from doctors or medicine or things we can explain. Sometimes, miracles come with 4 legs, a wagging tail, and a heart full of unconditional love.